Okay, how about this? How's everything looking and sounding this morning? If you've had a daily habit of tuning into the morning coffee time and that's had some positivity or any benefit really to your life, then I made the suggestion that you try to identify what the benefit of that is and engage your creativity to make a strategy for honoring that commitment for a half hour or so. At the same time, every morning, to keep yourself in the habit and to build good habits. I think I've said before, I'm a strong believer in incrementalism for many reasons. I mean, one, it honors this truth of conditionality, which the Buddha points to, which is a far superior way to relate to your world and your experience and your being. Far superior to personality view, I would say. Sort of than you being a good person or bad person, you exercise goodness, you refrain from unskillfulness, you resolve the pull to act in unskilled ways or erring ways. You build the conditions for those things to exist. It's not necessarily who you are. It's how you respond and the energy you put forth and the investments you make into developing goodness and practicing skillfulness in your life. I think also part of the value in incrementalism is we can oftentimes be paralyzed by big challenges. They can paralyze us. They can provoke doubt. And the truth of it is you don't really know what you're capable of. If you could put sustained and a relatively constant forward momentum into developing certain conditions. A fair amount of the limitations that you imagine that you're living underneath are just unexamined aspects of self and personality. And I think there could be a tendency sometimes to be stuck in wishing and wanting and a kind of longing for a once and for all fix. Sometimes I think of this kind of as lottery mentality. We're waiting for that one word, that one book, that new technique, that blazing insight. That transcendental experience in our meditation, in our contemplations. It's like a silver bullet. I think there's a tendency in us to want a once and for all fix. Maybe because we don't have sufficient faith in ourself and the efficacy of just putting forth effort and building good conditions. Maybe because we're a little impatient. Maybe because we're a little lazy to commit to doing the work. There might be many reasons. So that silver bullet lottery mentality kind of longing for somehow life just to magically just transform. Through some hack, through some tweak, through discovering treasure buried in the words of another or a book. I think we need to be sensitive to that, if not abandon that altogether. Not that we don't sometimes reach an inflection point. And I guess, it's, I wouldn't count out luck and chance either. They might play a role, but I'm not a gambler. So I wouldn't bet on luck and chance. And I wouldn't waste your time longing for some inflection point or quantum leap. But see if you can develop the strength of character and the humility to be willing to sort of do the work. Sort out for yourself how it is that suffering arises and suffering ceases in your mind, in your heart, in your life, with the conditions that you are living with, in some non-abstract way. And of course, in the here and now. It's even really a bit of a stretch to think about ending suffering forevermore. I mean, all you're really charged with is dealing with the present moment. And that bite-sized task is both more manageable and in some beautiful way more humble than our grandiose dreams of being happy forevermore and somehow getting lucky even in the spiritual dimension. Think of wisdom as a dynamic, not as a trophy or an attainment, but as a dynamic skill to know and respond to the challenge of being, the challenge of consciousness, the challenge of life, the challenge of relationship with other living beings. And maybe cultivate some sensibility for this most literal translation of the fool, of Bala, as childish. It's childish to want the quick fix. It's childish to want it all to be over. It's childish to be longing for the silver bullet or winning the lottery. Spiritually childish, psychologically childish. So, a few thoughts about practice and attitude. What's on everyone's minds this morning here? Oh, maybe before I move on to that too, if you've made a spiritual commitment to yourself, sometimes it can be good to share that with somebody. doesn't have to be me, but if you don't have somebody and you want to declare your commitment, then you can do that. You can send that to my email address as a way of clarifying and solidifying your commitment, if you find that helpful. I'm not necessarily all that interested. I don't necessarily want to know, but I feel goodwill towards you all and wish you all strength and the best. And if that's supportive, make use of that. Okay, let's see. I saw some highlighted questions or comments here. Good morning, Henning. I will be staying in a monastery for 4 days from next Saturday. Huh, wonderful. Would it be skillful to refrain from eating at the wrong time from now on to practice? It seems hard to do. I mean, you could do that. Although I think you'll find the challenge different once you're at the monastery, because all of a sudden you're in a place where other people are sharing that commitment. It's not appropriate. The environment's not really even set up for that if they have that practice. I'm not sure which monastery you're going to, but if you're going to one of our monasteries, there's no eating after midday. So over the years, I've talked with many people who've experienced anxiety around going on a retreat or coming to the monastery because of this practice. And there's quite a few people I've witnessed over the years who have surprised themselves at how well they coped with that and how easy it was. Oftentimes people overestimate what a challenge it might be, and they're happily surprised that it's not such a profound challenge. Not for everyone, but for many people. And maybe even I'd say the majority of the people that I know, when they go on their first retreat in a center where there's even a restricted, or in one of our retreats, a prohibition against eating after midday, many people are surprised to find that it works quite well. It's not the greatest austerity. So you might try that out, but I'd say it's not going to be the same. But you will get some experience, and it might help allay some anxiety. When somebody does something to purposely annoy you, how should we handle the situation? Should we not even talk about it and do our best not to be affected? Well, like many things, I would say it depends. And you have to use your discernment. And sometimes it's not so clear cut what the best choice is there. If you can overcome any tendency towards anger and ill will, there's an enhanced opportunity to make a good choice in how to respond. And if you can't do that, you might wait. If it's something that's happening purposefully and repeatedly, sometimes giving it a little space people can be extra defensive and extra angry when challenged in the moment. And I think oftentimes that is because most of the time people only admonish each other because they're in pain or they're annoyed or they're angry and they have ill will and anger in their heart. So, the defensiveness has its reasons. It's good to grow our capacity to deal with the annoyance in ourselves, though, like to overcome that. Not getting what one wants is dukkha, and the sensitivity of the human condition is full of annoyances and inconveniences. So, it is wise to challenge ourselves and to grow our capacity to endure that which is painful in the sense of unpleasant. Not that we have to seek it out, but it's quite natural that there is a feeling affect that comes with any sense contact. And to be able to sort of just abide with and not create suffering or not let it spoil your emotional well-being is a very important emotional skill. This simile of the second dart speaks somewhat to this. Somebody speaks hurtful words, or your neighbors are making annoying sounds. It's like that's dukkha vedana, that's unpleasant, unwished for, unwanted contact, sense contact. It's painful in the sense of it's dukkha vedana. But then we, being attached to some sort of idea of thinking our well-being is more bound up with pleasure and pain than it really is, overreact and generate anger and ill will or frustration. Or we go one step further and don't just emote and react internally in some unskillful way. We speak and act in unskillful ways that further compound the pain and the suffering. So there is a time and place sometime to just try to deal with things internally, let things go through forgiveness. And then there are times where the most skillful thing is to sort of challenge somebody who's intentionally trying to harm you or annoy you or pester you. So, but before doing so, it's wise to try to overcome any negativity so that one can come from a purified sort of place. And that might take some time, but in many situations, that's okay too. Take the time. I realized I was way behind in the chat, so is patience a part of the 10 perfections, a state or a feeling, like loving kindness, or a behavior? Well, Douglas, I would say patience, it's a spiritual faculty. It's a capacity to sort of bear with. It may be related to the question I was just addressing. Like, there's lots of encouragement in the suttas where the Buddha's talking with people that are sick, monks or lay people that are sick and in pain. And one of the things that he encourages them to bear with, because quite naturally we create suffering and emotional distress when we're experiencing contact that is unpleasant. So one of the spiritual faculties we need to bear with that which is painful and unpleasant, whether it's just sense contact, whether it's something we're not interested in, which in a sense is painful, like being bored. Whether it's unwished for, unwanted words of another, or some difficult sort of situation that one's confronted with in their life. It's all painful, and important part of overcoming dukkha is growing our ability not to respond in a way that further compounds that. And of course, the thing that compounds it the most is hating it and getting stuck in wishing and wanting it to be ever other than it is. Wanting it to go away, wanting it to end, wanting it to be different, not wanting to have to deal with it or endure it or bear with it. It's all wanting. It's tanha. So, patience plays into like developing and strengthening our capacity to bear with, becomes an important sort of faculty in growing our ability to sort of alleviate suffering. And I have to make this point when talking about patience. Like, we have to be careful to make sure that we don't mistake bitter endurance for patience. Like, true patience should be absent the bitterness. Like, you learn to bear with without any sense that something is wrong or should be different. It's you're just confronting pain and bearing with and enduring, being patient. A heart full of loving kindness helps. But the supreme protection is just seeing the opportunity that exists and not responding to pain with tanha, with craving for things to be ever other. So, to answer your question, like, is it a feeling or is it behavior? I think of it more as a behavior. It's a response. And there is an emotional flavor to it, which feels somehow related to the Brahma Viharas. And you think of patience as being infused with some of that energy of kindness and love and equanimity. Like an image that comes to mind is, of a mother or a parent enduring the annoying sounds of their children. You have a child who's emotionally upset, who is in some sort of distress. That's painful. It's painful to watch. It's painful to listen to. But in our better moments, we can receive that. We can bear with that with a heart full of sympathy and love and kindness, rather than getting angry or annoyed. Oh, Henning, thanks. I'm sorry I'm so far behind in the chat here, but you're going to go to Lakutra in Norway. Wonderful. Pass along my greetings to Ajahn Kalyano there. So I've had the good fortune to meet him a few times. It's a very nice, friendly monk. Good morning, Brandon. Does Pacific Hermitage allow visitors to practice with them? We do, but not at the Hermitage like we usually do outside events outside of this time of the pandemic. So we haven't been having any outside events. And that's part of the reason why we've been offering these streams on YouTube, is to create the opportunity for people to sit with us that way. Once conditions improve here, we'll resume doing some public events. Usually we have a meditation once a week in White Salmon, but we don't do, and we don't have permission to do like public assemblies and meditations at the Hermitage site. Most of our monasteries have facilities like that and programs for the public. The Hermitage is an exception to that, because it's set up primarily as a small residence for monks from our bigger community to come and practice in a smaller, simpler setting and to do retreat, monastic retreat. We do have some. We do have a regular ability for people to come and visit and talk with myself or the other monks, to talk about your practice or to get advice. So there's almost a daily opportunity for people to come and do that, but we don't have guest facilities so that people can't stay here, and then we're not having public meditation or teaching events here. Good morning, Kari. How important is daily routine in establishing a practice? Sitting, eating, meditating, walking at the same time. Well, I'd say if you're not making use of the fact that as humans we have the ability to sort of develop habits, you're kind of shorting yourself, because there seems to be some strength and some momentum in doing the same thing at the same time every day, or in the same place even, and have some sort of ritual or some sort of habit. So if we're just trying to be completely spontaneous, go with the flow, practice when we're inspired, you're losing some of the power that comes with developing a routine and habits. So if you make a commitment and you have a designated place where you go and you engage in practice every morning or every evening at a regular time, your body and mind will start anticipating and gearing up for that. And some of the good conditioning or supportive conditioning that builds around that will come to your aid. So I notice when I sit at my regular times, even before putting much effort into sitting, just the mind is kind of ready to sort of move in a certain direction and to calm down. So, using that as some leverage can be really sort of helpful. So, two-part question here from Sarah. Part one, Ajahn Sona mentioned that it is the mind that sits the body up straight during meditation. So yes, it's the energy of the mind that lifts the body up and holds it up. He gave an example that even a ballerina may slump seated in meditation. I'm wondering how a regular practice of deeply mindful yoga postures fits into all this. Well, I think exercise and mindful movement and yoga can help in many ways. I mean, one is, we're just a bit kind of like knotted up, and because of that, the energies of the body don't flow as well as they might. The breath isn't as full and as unrestricted as it could or should be. But just more broadly, let's just talk about it as the energies of the body. So and many styles of yoga sort of help us manipulate through the manipulation of the body and working with breath and attention, help us kind of free up the energies and move towards a state of ease and flow, and they affect the mind in sort of positive ways. And I wouldn't completely discount what's going on in the body, But I think the more significant thing is the effect that the yoga has on the mind. But there's this intimate relationship between body and breath and mind. And a strong emphasis on learning to work with the body and the breath, I think is very important. And for many people, and for many situations in our day and in our life, that's can be some of the most effective way to sort of engage the practice. But ultimately, I think it's about the mind. I see many people have popped in here their strategies for keeping some morning momentum going this month. So I appreciate people sharing that. Good morning, Thomas. I like your icon. It's very nice. Is that your dog? Ajahn, probably a common question, but as a person with a bum knee, I was wondering what a monk with such an issue does, especially during chanting. Have any of the monks had knee replacements? I know some of the monks have had knee surgery, and some of the nuns. I don't know if any of them had a full knee replacement, but we just adjust as necessary. I mean, there's monks sometimes that aren't able to kneel or sit either for periods of time, or sometimes they've lost that ability, and so they might use a bench or have to sit in a chair. Usually advocate not relying on a backrest, because that doesn't really promote some of the better postures for meditation and such. And I would say even for chanting, it's beneficial to be well supported and have good alignment so that the body can work properly. The breath and the diaphragm, everything flows freely and easily. You sit back in a chair like this, you're kind of collapsing and constraining some of the muscles and some of the breath, and the ability to have that all working and flowing freely. I'd say there's nothing sacred about kneeling. So, and you see actually different postures. Like I was recently watching this little documentary about monks in Burma, and it reminded me that the custom in Burma when they chant is they squat, and I'm not going to demonstrate it for you here, but they don't kneel. They're in a very deep kind of squat with their knees up, and then their hands are held like this. So they're kind of squatting on the ground, standing on their feet with their knees up and chanting like this. And I don't know if they do that in Sri Lanka as well. I think I've seen that in Sri Lankan monks, but certainly in Burma, that's how they do much of the chanting rituals that I've seen before. So there's nothing sacred about the posture or the position. It's sometimes culturally defined, or maybe always culturally defined. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap this up for this morning. I'm starting to hear people arriving and sounds outside. They're going to start intruding into the live stream here. So, and we've gone way over time, both yesterday and today. So have a good day. And if people still want to share commitments with me or feedback, please send an email. If you don't already have it, it's on our website, pacifichermitage.org, but it's also on the YouTube interface there, I think under the About tab, and it's hermitage@abhayagiri.org, hermitage at, and then Abhayagiri, our main monastery, .org. And I will see you on Monday morning. Have a good day and have a good weekend. And we'll be back here on Monday morning. So be well, friends.